Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrak and Kelly Cole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 81 of Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole. And our topic today is how the COVID-19 pandemic will change the American home with a guest. This is actually part 2 with Veronika Miller-Eagleson. So we had so much to talk about last time that we had to just keep chatting. So this is going to be another super interesting conversation. And we, like I said, are talking to our industry guru friend, Veronika Miller-Eagleson. And just to bring you up to speed on Veronika, she's the CEO of Modenus Media, which is a comprehensive online resource for design professionals and design enthusiasts. So whether it's client to designer, manufacturer to consumer, or blogger to fellow blogger, Modenus works daily to grow and enrich our design community, and we are so appreciative of all the work she does. She's also the founder of Designhounds, which is a network of over 500 design influencers. So she's a great friend. She's highly respected in our industry, and we basically trust everything she says. So before we get started, though, we want to tell you that this episode is sponsored by Curry & Company. Curry, as you probably know if you listen regularly to the show, is one of our go-to companies for lighting and interesting furniture and accessories. They are family-owned, and they've been creating innovative product for 30 years. So right now, they are shipping in a timely manner. They have really been a go-to still for us during the pandemic and shipping to our clients. So please check out their spring collection. They've got some really cool stuff. You can look at them online at Curry, Currey, and company.com.
Awesome. So let me give you a summary of part 1 of this episode. We encourage you to go back and listen to episode part 1 of this, which is episode number 80. And we talked about some very thought-provoking topics regarding how this global pandemic will affect the design industry, some of which will include the responsibility of the interior designer to approach manufacturers with innovative ideas and product needs, wellness-driven products like self-sanitizing door handles, smart toilets, and germ-resistant countertops and flooring, pandemic-driven products for the home like storage for frozen foods and non-perishables, wine and beer storage, delivery containers outside our doors, so much cool stuff. So let's continue our conversation with Veronika.
Hi, thanks for having me again. I love it. This mini-series thing, I think it's really, really great. So yeah, let's keep it going.
Awesome. Well, there are so many different topics we can kind of jump around to. And so let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on increasing the social connection during this time. We all have had a quick, if you weren't already tech savvy, now you're finding that you absolutely must be to survive in this world. So what are you seeing in your research and chats with industry professionals?
Well, I definitely think that the tech connection has taken on a whole new meaning. Doesn't mean that we necessarily know how to use it all yet. So obviously we had the elephant in the room, Zoom, which has just kind of grown beyond anybody's wildest dreams. And it's easy to use. It's easy to set up. It's easy to make a calendar appointment and invite people, and you see each other face to face. It's a pretty solid platform, but also you can now see that Google Meet is pushing into the space much more aggressively. If you have Gmail, then now suddenly Google Meet is right there. So for you to just click the button and not use Zoom, I think is the end game for those guys. And Facebook has just done the same thing with Rooms. So everybody wants a piece of that action. I think it's crucial that whatever we use, it's easy to use. And there's a conversation around the professional use of any of these platforms. So, business meetings, conferences, trade shows, moving into some virtual or hybrid solutions. So all of that makes sense for us as business people, but we also can't forget about the end user or the consumer, our seniors who have been so affected, especially by this pandemic, and who are spending so much of their time alone. And you see these terribly sad pictures of family visiting from outside a window and kind of waving in. My dad personally is in Germany, and he's just sitting around in his apartment. He's in a good place and safe, and goes hiking every day and does what he needs to do. But for me to get connected to him, we use WhatsApp, but it's something where he has to stare into his little phone all the time. And so I think there's a real conversation about making technology easy to use, but also better integrated. Facebook Portal, for instance, has a better interface, and it's more immersive when you're using it. So it doesn't, you don't have to sit right in front of this thing or stare into your phone at an awkward angle. But I think it's only the beginning of what smart home folks need to think about for really having an integration. I could see where, in your living room you might have a bigger screen on the wall that might double as a piece of art. Saw a lot of that at CEDIA Expo last summer. That could then become a screen so that you can just have that screen on. In the case of a senior, all he needs to do is turn it on, and then there's his family. So you can kind of just coexist. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to a conference or a call or a kind of scheduled meeting. Just kind of working or even living side by side with some screen integration, I think is where we need to go pretty quickly, because senior or not, business or not, the virtual fatigue that's going to kick in is coming, and it's coming fast.
I was just about to comment on that. Yeah. Go ahead, Joanne.
Are you going to talk about the design experience yesterday?
Yes.
Go
ahead.
The designer experience is through Designers Today magazine, and it's generally at a location, and it's a conference, lasts a couple days. But they did it virtually yesterday, and it was from 12 until 5. There was a break here and there, but it was a long time to be sitting and staring into that computer. And so I can totally see how, if this is going to continue and you need to be a part of this, it was hard to sit and look at the screen for that long.
Mm-hmm. It was. And I think Jane Dagmy did a great job, and we had a happy hour, and I thought, how are they going to do this? Because I think there was like 120 people when it all started, and they had us all split out into different rooms. And so we had these little happy hour conversations with like 15 of us, and then they would swap all the rooms and you'd have another 15 people. So it was super cool. But one thing that I was really noticing, and this is going to be part of how things get better, is some people's screen was very blurry. Some people's background was awful. Some people were far away from the screen. Some people were up close. It was so diverse as people, figured this out, that it was distracting, I thought. It's like, I'm like, wanted to be like, turn on your lights and get closer. I can't see you, that kind of thing. So I think we have a long way to go.
We do, and we need, and this plays into maybe some of the other conversations we wanted to have today, but we have to, and this is sort of my line of work, that's why I love, there's my soapbox, right, is to kind of think about what is sensitive to the user of that platform, and that's for designers and their clients. And it's from business to business. It's always the same conversation. We have to not just think about what's it going to take for me to get my point across, whether I'm a trade show or, a conference like the one with Jane Dagmy. I sat in on one over the last, in fact, today is the last day. It's called Untethered. It's a conference for event producers. It's 3 days. 3 days.
Oh.
They have a yoga class in between, and happy hours, and Netflix watching together. And I said, guys, this is wonderful. This is great. And it's completely exhausting. And it isn't how humans interact. So we have to be really respectful of how we mash up the feature set. So I love the idea of, having a screen somewhere on my wall to where I don't even think about it, but having people that I work with on a regular basis there as if we were in an office. I don't constantly stare at them when we're in an office together. I'm working, but I might have a question and I'll ask that question. And I think we really need to kind of back into a human-centered way of thought and of technology that allows us to be respectful for this thing to really have legs. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're all going to drop Zoom like a hot potato in about 4 weeks or 8 weeks and run to real life events where there might be a risk of some health issues. And so we have to make this sustainable. And to do that, it can't be a gold rush. It has to be carefully strategized and really thought out how we want to use these platforms. And again, I think about designers a lot. You guys are doing a lot of Zoom conferences now with your clients, and really thinking about how that's not going to tire or frustrate your client. So it might be a combination of giving them access to some mood board items to play around with on your website, and then following it up with a call. Because if they were in your studio, they might move stuff around that you've laid out for them. So they might want to still do that. They don't want to be passive all of a sudden and just sort of watch you show them stuff. You're going to lose them. So that's a big concern of mine right now.
I completely agree, especially after yesterday. Joanne and I were texting each other. We're like, I can't hang on anymore, but I don't want to miss the next speaker. I can't do this anymore. I said at like 4:00, I was like, forget it. I'm starting to drink. I'm going to just drink through this. But so how do you see, given all that you just said, how do you see us improving not only our home office spaces, because I think we're going to be, spending a lot more time at home these days, but also our offices in terms of technology and layout, and so that we don't feel that fatigue?
Oh, I think the home offices really need some thinking. So first of all, they need to be home offices, but not in the conventional sense. It's not the den anymore. Again, it'll be integrated into a space plan. And we've talked about this a little bit last time, is to kind of think about using spaces in a much more intelligent way and having them not purpose-built, right? So the formal dining room is a formal dining room, but rather allowing the flexibility of that a resilient home would provide you with, as that has some ability to grow with you as you need it. So maybe right now there are multiple workspaces in the home that can be sectioned off, that are purpose-built to where they're pretty sound safe.
I was going to say, if I can interject for a second, because I know with our podcast studio, sound absorption is very important. And I could tell yesterday, too, on the call, there were some people that were sitting in a room that probably didn't have any window treatments or any carpet, and it was very echoey. So I think soundproofing is going to be part of what they're going to need to do in these, whatever these spaces are. And they have to be away from kind of the rest of the home where there's no distractions.
Exactly. And think about it. You kind of have the best of both worlds. Maybe they have to be away from the rest of the home, or maybe we just have some smart product developers come up with solutions that do help you to soundproof a space that's closer within the home. But you just can still get away with that. That might open up to the rest of the home and not look like an office at all, barring the ergonomic seating, which I think is crucial to all of us, because otherwise the only industry that will benefit are the PT folks in about 3 months from now. And believe me,
absolutely,
I can sing to that tune. But it doesn't necessarily have to all be office space. Some design elements should be there permanently. And again, a screen could be mounted on the wall, could double as art the rest of the time when the office is not in use. Ergonomic chairs don't have to look like office chairs. There's a number of ways to make them look really great and be part of a den or a living space when they're not in use as a desk chair. Having biophilia elements in your work environment, and again, something we talked about a little bit last time, it doesn't just have to be a ficus tree in the corner. It can be, again, something visual. It can be sound of nature. It can be, some visuals, some nature visuals that really sort of kind of hybridize the space and allow you to, for the two of you to work together, have that screen running, but not because you're having a conference call, just because you're sort of working side by side. And it's not even in view of your laptop immediately. It's just there, which is kind of mimicking an office environment better. So other things like, having your equipment in place so you don't have to kind of find a weird way to set up your phone for a if it's a phone conference call, get a second phone and have that sitting on a tripod and use it. Have a little light ring available. Have some of these things in place that are dedicated for that purpose so that you don't have to, kind of struggle to get it all set up correctly when you need it. So, I think just thinking through some of these options in a smarter way is a really good idea.
I think also I see for myself, it doesn't seem practical, but I see it for myself in buying duplicates of things. We use double big monitors in addition to our laptops. And so, for example, my big monitor is at our lake house right now, all set up. And so when I come home to Georgia, I'm on my laptop and I feel lost, or even just moving around my own house. I'm like, oh my God, I want to go sit outside, but I have to unplug. And then I don't have my big monitor. And then, so I can see myself setting up, like you're saying, having that power cord in multiple places, having an Ethernet cord in multiple places, having maybe another monitor, maybe a cheaper version, in a different location, just so that moving around is, for a new scene or to move my body.
Right,
it
doesn't take you 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't take you 10 minutes to go set up. You just get in your spot and go.
Exactly. And then, think about it. You don't always have to be visually available on every Zoom call. Have a great placeholder image of yourself. Maybe even with some information about the specific talk. You might, if it's a new client, you probably want to be on camera. But if it's a team call, you might want to have relevant information on a card that you use as your screen holder for that particular call. And then you can take the call from somewhere else as long as you have a decent signal. Sit outside and have the call and benefit from not having to be in an office. That's the whole point of this exercise. So, I think
almost like listening to a podcast. You could be doing something while you're listening. You're still getting the information, but you don't have to be, you don't have to have the FaceTime.
Yeah, you don't have to be glued to the thing. And the 20-20-20 rule, right? I think the computer programmers use this all the time. Every 20 minutes, look away to a distance of 20 feet for 20 seconds. Because you're going to have, especially if you're working with a laptop, you're going to have text neck. You're sitting in a really bad place for your upper back, your neck, and your cervical spine. That's kind of in a really unfortunate angle in many cases. A lot of folks are sitting on their beds. You're just not in a good ergonomic place. But also, we tend to work more right now. One, because we feel like we kind of need to reinvent some stuff, so we're more focused. But also because there's a bit of a stress thing that's just underlying, and it makes us grind in harder. And really stepping away for 20 seconds and looking off into the distance and letting your eye rest at a different angle is really important. Otherwise, I think we're going to have some health issues associated with this thing. So kind of thinking about that. And I think that all of these great sort of thoughts, if you turn those into a design strategy for your business, this is some of the stuff we need our clients to know. Adding that to your newsletters, creating outreach to existing clients to help them upgrade some of these elements in their home right now is a really great way to reinitiate the conversation with existing clients and not just looking for new business.
Okay, so can we move on to something that I think is, I know Kelly and I are trying to figure out how to deal with this, and I'm sure a lot of other, conference people like you. How are we going to source product? There's markets, there's trade shows, and if we're not able to go to those, I do know, as a matter of fact, when we were on the call yesterday, when I was in one of our little groups, there was a woman who was from Red Egg, which is a company I've wanted to see in High Point. And I said to her, oh yeah, when I come to High Point in October, I'm going to need to come to that showroom. And she said, well, you can come to the showroom right now. She goes, I have a virtual showroom. You can just sign in and see it. So I know people are doing that. I just don't know how that's, if you want to touch and feel and see something in person, it might be tougher. So what do you see going forward?
The touch and feel is a big one. And
it really is.
I think we need the markets and we need the trade shows. First and foremost, it's right there. I work with a lot of them, and I love them. I love them for the ability to touch and feel product, to sit on sofas and to open drawers, and that is not going to go away, and it shouldn't. And the other part is that we really all love the the social element that comes with all of these markets and these sourcing environments. So we don't want that to go away, and we don't want retail to go away, but we do need to hybridize some of it. And the honest truth is we should have done that over the course of the last decade. We just didn't, because business was good. And when business is good, you try to not rock the boat and you don't tend to reinvent as much. And now's a really good time to reinvent. And that's not kind of chasing the great next opportunity. I hate the word virtual trade shows. People ask me all the time, because we're in this industry, what are you producing? What kind of virtual trade show are you guys building? And I said, we aren't, because a trade show, in my mind, is by definition a real life event, and it should be. But we can support it. And I think there's a couple ways for brands to think about it. First, the access to material, to samples. And that also goes for designers when you're presenting to a client. If you really have to do it virtually, I would send a really cool design box ahead of time to them so that they can play along in their own environment. So if that's not necessary, great, but I would make sure that samples and access to materials to touch and feel are really part of any presentation. So send something ahead of time, send a box out so that people can relate to what you're talking about. Screens remain not super reliable in terms of color, textures. That's probably not going to go away too much. There is something to be said for actually having the thing right in front of you. That is very compelling. So hybridizing that from the perspective of a design studio or a brand, I think, is really important. Adding as many real life events as they can, or at least having a button, get me the sample overnight, is, Material Bank is a great resource that a lot of brands are using. So that really is a way forward to make this a little bit more compelling. The other thing is, don't do it alone. Don't do it in a silo. It's great that Red Egg has a great space, and a lot of other brands have great spaces, but they're now forcing the designer to jump from website to website, from user experience to user experience, and that isn't good for you guys. First of all, it's a time suck. And it's very exhausting, and you're going to get different things in different formats. You need it at your fingertips. You need it now, and so do your clients. So when you think about it, how your clients would interact with you in real life, try to use not just a virtual experience, but kind of try to figure out how can I make this a hybrid experience that works best. So I think the samples are great. Aggregating the content, and that is a shameless plug for what we're doing right now, is to bring a really interactive experience to people that are sourcing, whether that's consumers or design professionals. That is sort of our version, I don't know where I'm at, 5.0 for sure. So we want design professionals to get access to a lot of brands through our infrastructure, whether it's on Modenus or on our partner sites, to be able to jump in there and see not one brand, but several hundred brands have the same user experience and be able to grab the files that they need, or to click on send me a sample, and whether that's hooked to the manufacturer or material bank doesn't matter. But we have to be really intelligent about what we provide our customers with, to be respectful of the time and energy they have to invest in this. It can't be harder, it should be easier.
You know, Darius Rucker, one of my favorite artists, was on the Today Show yesterday, and they were asking him, so do you think concerts will ever happen again? And he said, concerts, sporting events, they're the fabric of our culture. So they have to come back, just like you're talking about with all of our trade shows. But it might, it probably won't be for a year until we have a vaccine, and then it'll be modified. So, the way I look at it, we've got a solid year to come up with these hybrid ways of living. And in the end, it's all going to be a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we're doing this. And like you said, we probably should have done it 10 years ago. And so I don't really I look at it as purely positive.
It definitely has a lot of positive potential, and not forget about it when things are better. Is there a possibility that there might be another pandemic? Maybe, probably, but that shouldn't be the driving factor here. We should just want to do business better. Look at what we're doing for the environment right now with this lockdown. Inadvertently, we couldn't figure that one out to save our lives for decades. And suddenly now, because we're told that it's really, really dangerous to not do certain things, here we are. And we are doing it. So, and some of it is actually benefiting us, the way we live with our families, the amount of time we spend with our pets, the less travel is maybe not necessarily altogether bad. We're doing some great stuff. Let's not forget it just because somebody says, okay, whoops, all clear. We don't have to go back to the normal, because maybe normal never is. So let's just be better.
I agree.
And move forward, having learned a few things.
Well, we've learned a few things from you today, Veronika. Thank you so much. This has been so great, and I know a lot of people listening will find this very interesting and very thought-provoking. And so we have to end with our couple of quotes. We have a funny quote and a serious quote that we end every podcast with. So, Kelly, go ahead. Take your pick.
Oh, I'll do the funny quote because I'm a binge watcher. Okay, you ready? Dear Netflix, can you please turn off the "Are you still watching" feature? We are in quarantine, so yes, we're still watching. I don't think we need this kind of judgment in this time of uncertainty. Please update it to say, "Are you sure you want to eat that?" That would be most helpful. I need that for sure.
Yes.
I know. And then our serious quote, and I love this: a good life is when you smile often, dream big, laugh a lot, and realize how blessed you are to have what you have. So there are some things we may not have right now, but there is a lot that we do have, and we need to be grateful for that. And just look forward to the future as not only being changed, but changed for the better.
I do think it's been a time of great reflection. And like I said before, I think it's all going to be positive in the end. So Well, Veronika, you are the bestest, and I listened to our last episode twice because I just had to let it all sink in, and now we've got some new nuggets to chew on that are going to come from this episode. So we really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I'm glad you're doing this. It's a really great format. And honestly, by the way, I really like this quote business. That's a very nice way to end on a good note. And I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much.
Okay, hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate
Thanks
that.
for listening, everybody. Yeah,
Bye.
have a great day.
Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Kandrak-Cole, and of course, you've got to visit them online at kandrak-cole.com for more information.